We're going to kick it over to Alpha Low, who's going to talk about restoring the rain. And then Magenta, if you want to go to the next slide and take it away, Alpha.
Hi, welcome everyone. I'm uh, calling in from Oregon. I used to live in the Bay Area, in California, and I remember I was back when the boom was still Evolver, and we'd go to those meetings. And then we were having wildfires all the time in California, like every 2 years, and they were huge. And some of them, I got pretty close to, and I've been studying microscopic water, and then I saw some videos like uh, about how you could actually restore the small water cycle, which is the whole water cycle where the trees transpire and then come back down. They add water to the air, and that actually increases the rain. And I was like, how come we're not and that also hydrates the ground. So how come we're not approaching California fires this way? We're just talking about fuel reduction, which means chopping down more carbon. And the more I looked into this water thing, I remember reading Charles Eisenstein's book Climate, and he had a chapter in there that was saying water is just as, or if not more important than carbon in the whole climate, because it's circulating around the whole Earth. And if we mess with that cycle, then it kind of throws off so many of life's processes, and we should really be restoring the water. And so I kind of like sensed that this was a really huge topic, and so I kind of pivoted from other work into studying water. And I was in the permaculture world, and we're doing some water restoration, and people kept talking about, well, you can restore the rain. And Bill Mollison, who founded permaculture, was saying that you could grow trees to restore the rain. And I came from a physics background. I was like, is this really scientific? And so the more I delved into it, and people were saying, well, the scientists don't really know what they're talking about. But then the more I looked, there was more and more literature, and so I started on this with the scientists, and at the time I was also organizing the water talks and water networks, getting people to talk about water. And so someone introduced me, Judith Schwartz had written this book about water in plain sight, which I see in the book. So she actually introduced me to this guy Milan, who's a meteorologist in Spain, who was asked by the European Union why Spain was losing its water, and he discovered that was because they were cutting down their forests and draining their wetlands. And so I got him to do a podcast with him, and that started my whole Climate Water Project podcast. And I already had this Climate Water Project newsletter on Substack. I put that link in the chat, and so I started interviewing other scientists. And, there's hundreds of scientists studying this, and my latest post, there's like hundreds of papers on this too. And so we need to bring all the scientists and all the people on the ground, the permaculturists, the water restorationists, to kind of work together, and then also bridge with the governance. And I actually have a lot of governments around the world now reading my blog, and getting really interested in this. Major insurance companies, you know the investment banks, they're all now starting to look at this, because they're like, this is one of the biggest issues. And insurance, all the things fall apart if the basis of our water doesn't work. And like in California, we depend on the Colorado River, and 7 states are taking from it. It's not clear that it's going to last for 2 more decades. And we're draining all our groundwater around the world. So our whole basis of our human civilization is a little bit at stake. And there is this whole thing, we can restore the rain. And so we can actually gather people. And I started this project in Iberia, in Spain, and Portugal, to kind of get people together to look at ways you can restore the land. And if you can get these large bioregional movements to kind of restore the land, if you can restore 6 by 6 miles, that already begins to start bringing back some of the rain. And you could see that happening in Africa, where they have these huge, in the Great Green Wall that's being built across Africa. So the idea is that what you want to do is start infiltrating the rain in your backyard, in your city, in your town. And the ways to do that is building rain gardens where there's divots, or like, so it kind of collects the rain, but there's soil on top. Or you could have hugelkultur, which is logs in your garden that kind of soak up a lot more of the water. Because what happens is that a lot of the rain comes down on the land and then rushes out into the drains and flushes that back out to the ocean without being infiltrated in the soil. If you don't absorb all that water, then the trees don't have as much water to transpire to create rain. And also, we need to also replant. Once you restore the water, you also need to replant a lot of trees and ecosystems so that you can restore the rain. So anyway, so it's a key thing. We need to charge our groundwater so we have enough water supply. Could do it with these methods. It'll help deal with wildfires all around the world, which are happening now, and help deal with our water supply around the world. Thanks.